A serial killer is often thought of as a mentally disturbed individual who was impacted during their early years by way physical or mental abuse. These individuals allegedly engage in this behavior of killing as a way to escape this deep-rooted mental abuse and obsess on this newfound behavior to feel a sense of worth and control. In our dark story today, we learn about the first known serial killer in America, who certainly was no exception. And it is believed that he is responsible for murdering over 200 people during his 35 sadistic years on this earth.
Herman Webster Mudgett, who later became known as H. H. Holmes, was born in May of 1861, in New Hampshire. This future serial killer was born into a very wealthy family. However, both of his parents were physically and mentally abusive towards him. But Holmes was not only abused by his parents, he was also isolated and bullied by his classmates and peers due to his high intelligence and awkward demeanor. He would get attacked on a regular basis, and became very disturbed. Holmes said that during one of those physical attacks, classmates pushed a skeleton hand against his face, and that episode would lead to his developed interest in death. He would later say that to avoid abuse from those around him, he would often flee into the woods where he would kill, dissect, and perform surgery on animals. It's also believed this early fascination of death caused Holmes to commit his first murder at the age of 11, when it was speculated that he pushed his friend Tom off a cliff. His childhood full of neglect, violence, and isolation are why many believe Holmes's childhood is a contributing factor in his journey of becoming a serial killer. Holmes would also become a swindler and fraud. In his late teens, he would marry a woman named Clara Levering. He would use her and steal enough money to attend the University of Michigan. He would then leave her in less than a year without ever really knowing her. He would repeat this pattern many times over, all while stealing from each one of them. At one point, he had 3 wives at the same time, with none of them knowing he was married to the other. Eventually, Holmes would make it to medical school using the money he swindled. During this time at medical school, he wanted to conduct his own research, and he began robbing graves and stealing cadavers from the school in order to do so. What bodies he didn't use, Holmes sold on the black market, or on one occasion used a body to fake his death to commit insurance fraud. Holmes burned the body in a house down to forge an accidental death on one of his many identities, and had his wife claim the $12,000 life insurance policy. After collecting this money, he would abandon that woman as well. H. H. Holmes would eventually reach his master plan as a serial killer after getting a job at a pharmacy, eventually buying the pharmacy by conning a widower, and then constructing a mansion across the street. This building would become known as the Murder Castle. Holmes saw an opportunity to build the castle across the street from the pharmacy on an empty plot of land. In 1887, he started the construction of his 3-story building with a cellar. No one knew of Holmes' building plans during the construction. Many different people came and went during construction phases, and because there were so many employees, Holmes was able to create the delusion that some rooms were not there, or rooms with trapdoors. The castle was finally completed in 1892. The first floor was open to the public with stores, one of the stores being a new pharmacy ran by Holmes himself, and other stores run by merchants of different trades. Holmes announced this so-called market for the World's Fair in 1893, as he planned to open the top floors for guests to stay in while visiting. He had the idea to rent rooms to unexpected victims, mostly women whom he raped and killed at will. The most confusing floor was the second. It contained more than 50 doors and at least 6 hallways. Only 35 rooms were actual bedrooms used for guests, while the other rooms were soundproofed. The rooms came with low ceilings, and some were even as small as closets. There were also pipes hidden in the rooms to gas the occupants. He also constructed lots of hidden peepholes. Holmes put alarms in rooms so that occupants could not escape, and if they did, he would know. There were lots of trapdoors, secret passageways, and even a shaft down to the cellar, to dispose of the bodies. The third floor was confusing but furnished. On many occasions, guests had trouble locating their rooms. They were scattered throughout and oddly angled. The lighting was poor and gas lamps were spaced. Not only were the rooms confusing, but there were also dead ends and staircases led nowhere. Holmes had a key for every locked door. No one had known that Holmes had constructed his perfect murder enterprise. Holmes was finally arrested in 1894, and confessed to 28 murders, along with insurance fraud. Though it is believed that he murdered more than 200 people. He was executed on May 7, 1896. One of the builders of the castle, a man named A.M. Clark, wanted to turn the castle into a museum depicting the life of H. Holmes. After this news, people began protesting and calling it the Murder Castle. But in 1894 the castle caught on fire and the building was destroyed, however the first floor was spared. It was eventually rebuilt, and sold in 1937. It was then torn down and rebuilt into the Englewood post office that is there today. Some speculated that Holmes was able to escape execution and fled to South America. However, in 2017 his descendants wanted to put a stop to the rumors and his body was exhumed and his identity was confirmed.